The era of the untouchable LeBron James is officially over, and the latest evidence didn't come from a scoreboard, but from a calculated public denial that has sent shockwaves to the Los Angeles Lakers organization. For 20 years, the partnership between LeBron James and his agent, Rich Paul, has been the most powerful alliance in professional sports, a united front that dictated roster moves and held front offices hostage. But on January 14, 2026, that alliance finally cracked. Following a win over the Atlanta Hawks, LeBron James did something he has almost never done in his 23-year career. He publicly separated his own interests from the words of the man who built Klutch Sports. This isn't just a simple disagreement over a podcast clip. It is the first visible sign of a massive internal power struggle as the Lakers transition from the LeBron James era to the Luka Doncic era. To understand why this is happening now, we have to follow the money, the leaked trade proposals, and the reality of a franchise that is quietly preparing to move on from its greatest icon. The expectation was that LeBron would always have the final say on who stays and who goes in Los Angeles. The reality is that for the first time in his life, LeBron is watching the team build a future that doesn't revolve around him. We are going to answer 3 critical questions today. First, why did LeBron feel the need to publicly throw Rich Paul under the bus? Second, what is the real financial motivation behind the rumored Austin Reaves trade to Memphis? And finally, are the Lakers actually planning to force LeBron out by the spring of 2026? The receipts we have today, from podcast transcripts to injury reports and contract flexibility spreadsheets, suggest that the Kings' shadow GM reign is coming to an end. According to a report from the Times of India on January 10, 2026, the Lakers are internally preparing for a future without LeBron James as early as this spring. This is the second most shocking point in our investigation because it reveals that the front office is no longer operating with LeBron-colored glasses. Per the report, the organization's priority has shifted entirely to Luka Doncic, who arrived in a blockbuster trade last February. While the public saw a star-studded pairing, the business reality is that the Lakers refused to offer LeBron a significant extension this past offseason. This refusal created a vacuum of power. When a franchise stops looking at a player as their primary asset, the agent usually steps in to create leverage. But this time, Rich Paul's attempt to create that leverage backfired in a way that forced LeBron to choose between his loyalty to his agent and his standing in the locker room. This leads us to the most shocking revelation of the week, the calculated attempt to ship out Austin Reaves. On the most recent episode of the podcast Game Over with Max Kellerman and Rich Paul, the Klutch Sports founder didn't just hint at a trade, he laid out a specific roadmap to send Reaves to Memphis. Paul argued that Memphis would be willing to make Reaves their highest paid player and their primary point guard, while the Lakers would receive defensive anchor Jaren Jackson Jr. in return. On paper, this looks like a basketball move to help Luka Doncic. In reality, industry insiders see it as a clutch move to clear the books of a non-clutch player who is due for a massive 5-year, $241 million extension. Per reports on January 14, 2026, the backlash was immediate. Austin Reaves' agent, Reggie Berry, reportedly confronted Rich Paul at halftime during the Hawks game for a lengthy, tense conversation on the sidelines. The receipt of this confrontation is crucial because it shows that the Lakers' locker room is currently a powder keg. LeBron James, realizing that his own reputation was being dragged into a trade scheme he might not have authorized, had to make a choice. His post-game comments were cold and clinical. He told reporters that Rich is his own man and that what Rich says is not a direct reflection of how LeBron feels. This prose-based denial is the first time we've seen LeBron James draw a line in the sand against his own representation. It signals that LeBron is no longer willing to take the PR heat for Klutch's aggressive roster manipulation. The third major point involves the Hennessy fakeout from October 2025, which serves as a receipt for the declining trust between LeBron and his fan base. Per People magazine on October 7, 2025, LeBron teased a massive announcement he called the second decision. This caused Lakers ticket prices to skyrocket from $85 to over $400 in a matter of hours, as fans believed he was announcing his retirement. When the announcement turned out to be nothing more than an advertisement for a spirit brand, the backlash was fierce. Fans labeled the move as nasty work and a corny cash grab. This matters because it shows a pattern of LeBron's camp prioritizing short-term financial gains and engagement over the actual stability of the franchise and its fans. This marketing blunder set the stage for the current drama. When you've already tricked the fans once for a paycheck, they are much less likely to believe you when your agent starts talking about what's best for the team. Behind the scenes, the physical receipts are also starting to tell a story of a player whose leverage is tied to his availability. According to injury reports from January 13, 2026, LeBron has already missed 17 games this season due to ongoing sciatica and foot joint arthritis. Under the NBA's current 65-game rule, LeBron is just one absence away from being ineligible for postseason awards. This is a significant blow to his industry value. If he cannot qualify for all NBA honors, his ability to demand the max in any future negotiation is severely weakened. While he is still averaging 27 points and 7 assists when he plays, the availability is the best ability mantra is starting to haunt him. The Lakers front office knows this. Per the Times of India report, they are looking at a roster that has only 5 guaranteed contracts for the 2026-2027 season, and LeBron James is not one of them. By clearing the deck, the Lakers are positioning themselves to build a Doncic-centric team, and the Rich Paul trade proposal for Austin Reaves was likely an attempt to get ahead of that movement. There is also the Bronny factor, which remains one of the most contentious reality versus expectation points in the industry. The expectation was a heartwarming father-son story that would stabilize the Lakers brand. The reality, per stats from the first half of the season, is that Bronny has struggled significantly, averaging just over 2 points per game before being sent to the G League. According to a Sports Rush report on January 1, 2026, there is growing frustration within the Lakers development staff regarding why Bronny receives roster consideration over high-performing prospects like Dalton Kent. This isn't about the kid, it's about the industry clout required to keep a spot. When Rich Paul suggests trading Austin Reaves, a player who has actually earned his spot through performance, to make room for roster balance, it looks like a move to protect the Klutch hierarchy rather than the team's win-loss record. The timeline of these events shows a man trying to manage his exit. On one hand, you have LeBron James distancing himself from his agent to maintain his good guy locker room image. On the other, you have Rich Paul doing the dirty work of trying to flip the roster before the Lakers front office decides to flip LeBron himself. According to a Bleacher Report prediction from late 2025, the relationship between James and the Lakers has turned complicated because LeBron is no longer the priority. This is the fundamental shift in the industry. For 20 decades, LeBron was the sun that the NBA orbited. In 2026, he is becoming a star that the Lakers are trying to navigate around. LeBron's reaction to the Rich Paul podcast controversy wasn't just a defense of Austin Reaves, it was a desperate attempt to maintain his remaining influence. If the locker room turns on him because they think he's trying to get them traded through his agent, LeBron loses his last bit of power as a leader. He had to be clear. He had to say that Rich is his own man, and that what Rich says is not a direct reflection of how LeBron feels. This prose-based denial is the first time we've seen LeBron James draw a line in the sand against his own representation. It signals that LeBron is no longer willing to take the PR heat for Klutch's aggressive roster manipulation. The impact on LeBron's career is undeniable. We are witnessing the final act of a legend who is fighting to stay relevant in an organization that has already found its next cornerstone. The financial receipts show that the Lakers have the cap flexibility to walk away. The performance receipts show that LeBron's body is finally signaling his limits. And the PR receipts show that the fan base is growing tired of the business of LeBron interfering with the game of basketball. This rift with Rich Paul over the Austin Reaves trade rumors might be remembered as the moment the crown finally slipped. It wasn't a rival player who dethroned the king. It was the inevitable march of team business and the messy reality of trying to control a narrative that has finally grown too big to manage. As we look towards the spring of 2026, the question isn't whether LeBron James is still a great player. He clearly is. The question is whether the LeBron James industry can still function inside a Lakers team that is ready to move on. Rich Paul's podcast comments weren't a mistake. They were a failed gamble to see if they could still dictate terms to the Lakers front office. LeBron's denial was the admission that the gamble failed. The game has changed. The power has shifted to the younger stars, and even the king has to follow the new rules if he wants to stay on the court. To understand how these power moves actually work behind the scenes and see the patterns that repeat across the league,
you need to understand the deeper games being played by agencies and executives. This is just one chapter in a much larger story of how the league is being reshaped from the inside out. If you want to see the blueprints for how these industry secrets are kept and how they are eventually exposed, the next essential step is to dive into our full breakdown of the league's most guarded operations.